Industrial Revolution, Universitas Terbuka or UT has continuously been implementing many more developments and innovations as it efforts to establish the identity as a cyber university by utilizing the most state-of-the-art technologies. The wave of digital disruptions has dramatically changed the views of many sectors. In response to this new and modern world, UT adapts and invests in new technologies, including web-based system, where registrations, learning material development, tutorial, and final examinations are conducted online. Online registration system is developed to enable students to register for the courses through various devices, such as computers and smartphones. Students are able to access digital learning materials in PDF and EPUB formats in UT Digital Library. Online tutorials are now available for all courses that interactions occurs asynchronously. UT also offers synchronous learning that enables real-time communications and collaborations, such as web-based tutoring, e-lecturing, and video conferencing. UT has implemented online final examinations conducted at regional offices utilizing VPN technology to connect different regional offices throughout the country to the examination center at the headquarters. In 2018, UT made a significant breakthrough by introducing online proctored examinations that allow students to take online examination at remote locations of their choice. UT is proud to offer open educational resources which we call Swaka Universitas Terbuka. It offers free online courses available for everyone around the globe at no additional cost. Swaka Universitas Terbuka offers UT TV on YouTube, UT Radio broadcast through the internet, online enrichment materials, digital library, Guru Pintar Online, a portal for teachers throughout Indonesia which allows them to access various information about teacher trainings, teaching and learning materials to improve their educational experiences. Swaka Universitas Terbuka provides massive open online courses or MOOCs. To enrich student learning experience, UT provides Dry Lab and e-seminar. Dry Lab enables students to perform practical work simulations with their computers. Meanwhile, e-seminar is dedicated to students who are required to present the results of their studies or research virtually. To obtain information about UT, communication channels are provided for students and general public, including Halo UT is to answer courteously inbound calls from students and public seeking information about UT. Digital marketing shares information through social media to connect with current and prospective students. To support e-learning, UT provides facilities to the students such as Wi-Fi ID, a free internet service for students using Wi-Fi hotspots in public locations provided by PT Telkom. Microsoft Office 365, free software for students to help them facilitate office documentation, communications, and management tasks. Central Layanan UT or SALUT is the extension of regional offices to bring services closer to the current students and prospective students. To ensure the quality in every single aspect, UT involves both domestic and international accreditation and quality assurance institutions, including the International Organization for Standardization, National Accreditation Board, and the International Council for Distance Education, ICDE.
We know that Universitas Terbuka share this commitment, providing world-class, accessible, higher education, and we're very proud to support you.
That Universitas Terbuka has assumed a leadership role in the field of open education resources, or OER.
To face the era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Universitas Terbuka, or UT, is strongly committed to innovate in order to continue and sustain its identity as a cyber university. Various efforts has been taken by utilizing advances in communication and information technology, or ICT, to increase the higher education gross enrollment rate. Since its establishment on September 4, 1984, UT, with an open and distance learning system, has shown accomplishment in the distribution of quality higher education and increasing learning opportunities for all. The era of disruption has initiated the birth of more innovative and disruptive ways in the world of education. This will encourage the digitizations of the education system. In response to this, UT has made various innovative changes, starting from registration activities, developing teaching materials, implementing tutorials, to examinations, which are all can be carried out fully online. Currently, UT holds more than 40 study programs for diploma, bachelor, master, and doctoral programs in management and public administration under 4 faculties. In addition, UT also provides certificate programs in the form of independent course programs, massive open online courses or MOOCs, continuing education programs, as well as instructional training programs and professional skills. Moreover, UT also provides a variety of open educational resources which can be accessed not only by students but also by general public for free. To maintain quality standards, UT periodically invites the National Accreditation Body for Higher Education, or BAN PT. In addition, UT periodically and voluntarily invites international certification bodies to conduct quality reviews, namely the Organizations for Standardization, or ISO, and the International Council for Open and Distance Education, or ICDE.
UT in the era of new normal has further solidified its identity as the leader of distant higher education institution in Indonesia. By utilizing advances in technology and informations in supporting learning services, UT is proven at the forefront of distant education's innovations.
The fast-growing demands of digital era motivates us to continue improving the potential of integrated human resources that are capable to support productivity. This vast and rapid development needs an effective and modern learning solution that can keep up with the routines of today's society. A facility that can cope with the limitations of space and time. For many people, both limitations pose as major problems in developing themselves and enhancing their career in digital era. In the end, those problems will impact their lifestyle. Universitas Terbuka is here to answer those problems by applying an open and distance learning system. A system that has proven effective in increasing the coverage and equal distribution of excellent higher education for all elements of society. Our learning system. Our system allows students to have a flexible and open learning method, and it offers many advantages. First one is the registration period, which is open throughout the year, so no more worry about late registration. Flexible space, time, and place. This is useful for students who still want to develop their knowledge wherever and whenever they want. Easily access printed and digital teaching materials in all corners of Indonesia and other countries. Our system gives opportunity to people from all groups and ages to learn and develop their knowledge as well as their skills in all fields. With 39 regional offices all across Indonesia and overseas service centers, we are always ready to support operational activities and cooperations with various national and international institutions. We have numerous facilities to support student activities and learning process, from UT Radio, UT TV, learning assistance to online library. Universitas Terbuka offers you 4 credible faculties: Faculty of Education and Teacher Training, Faculty of Law, Social and Political Sciences, Faculty of Economics, and Faculty of Science and Technology. With more than 35 study programs and postgraduate programs. Universitas Terbuka, making higher education open to all.
Hello. Okay, so that was a brief presentation about our university, Universitas Terbuka. So I hope you are now familiar with our university. Now, before we start, I would like to greet all of the participants of the Knowledge Sharing Forum. So good afternoon to you all, distinguished speakers and participants of the 20th Knowledge Sharing Forum hosted by Universitas Terbuka Indonesia. Now, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Suci Isman. I will be convening the forum for this afternoon. And it is a pleasure for me to be the moderator for today's event. And on behalf of Universitas Terbuka and the KSF committee, I would like to extend a very welcome to you all. And we appreciate you taking your time off from your busy schedule to be with us, sharing our knowledge about the quality student services during the COVID-19 outbreak, which is a very relevant and interesting theme for us to discuss. So without further ado, I now would like to welcome Professor Dr. Ojat Darojat, Director of Universitas Terbuka, to give a welcome speech. Pak Ojat, please welcome.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Suci Isman. And Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good day, everyone. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Just before we get started,
Prof.
Yeah, thank you. Just before we get started, I would like to express my gratitude to all our speakers and also moderator who so generously accepting our invitations. Mr. Selvik, the Secretary General of International Council for Open and Distance Education, CDE, Prof. Tian Belawati, Rector of Universitas Terbuka 2009 until 2017, and also President of ICDE 2012 until 2015. And a friend of mine, Dr. Suma Alhaji Ali, Director of Excellence and Governance from Hamdan bin Muhammad Smart University, and of course, Ibu Suci Mardiati Isman, Ph.D. from Universitas Terbuka. And also to all participants, on behalf of Universitas Terbuka, I would like to express my warmest gratitude for your participation in this webinar. It is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to the 20th Knowledge Sharing Forum or KSF Universitas Terbuka on the topic of quality student services during COVID-19 outbreaks. Everyone, the COVID-19 pandemic has overchanged people's lives in various fields, including in education. Thus, learning in the era of new normal is carried out by learning from home. All education institutions were forced to adapt this in carrying out their learning activities, since learning in conventional ways is impossible. The COVID-19 has brought about challenges and opportunity to move forward with preparation to improve ICT and e-learning facilities, increase lectures capacity, and develop flexible policies. This phenomenon is therefore has strengthened UT identity as the leader of the distant higher education institution in Indonesia, because in its establishment 36 years ago, UT has been implemented a distant learning system by utilizing advancements of information technology. Thus, UT is one step ahead in conducting online learning. Various types of learning aid services have been provided to reach the unreached students who are scattered in all corners of the country, even abroad, that cannot be served by conventional methods. All these services are provided to suit the needs and styles of UT students' millennial generations, such as online tutorial, webinar, radio and television sessions. Likewise, to measure students' competency achievements, there were various types of exams to choose, such as paper-based exams, online proctoring exams. In terms of academic product, students can take advantage of interactive digital learning materials in addition to printed learning materials. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic provides an opportunity for all to reflect on how to maintain quality higher education and ensure equitable access for all. And with the immense experience and expertise assembled here today, I am confident this webinar will facilitate a very constructive exchange of knowledge, and I wish you all a most fruitful day with interesting and stimulating discussions. So thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Back to Ibu Suci.
Waalaikumsalam, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Ojat, for your warm welcome remarks. Okay, so now we will be listening and hearing the presentation from three prominent speakers. We will start with Torun Glechvik. We will get to know more about her. So, Torun Glechvik is from Oslo, Norway, and she is currently the Secretary General for the International Council for Open and Distance Education, or ICDE. And she has more than 20 years of experience in distance and online education, and has held several executive leadership positions in various educational institutions and organizations, including the National Membership Association Flexible Education Norway. Now, from 2015 until 2018, she was head of development at the ICDE Secretariat and her international experience covers policy development, international networks, global events, and cross-country project management related to the global field of open, flexible, distance, and online education. Now, Gleswig has been a member of the Orientation Board of CNED, or the National Center for Distance Education in France, since 2016, and represents Norway in the NVL Digital Network of the Nordic Network for Adult Learning, or NVL. Quite an extensive bio. Now, before our presentation, I would just like to remind all the speakers that each presentation will be for 20 minutes. And before 5 minutes, I will give a reminder. And then the question and answer will be at the end of all of the presentation. Okay, now we will start with Torun Glesvig with the title of Quality Student Services During COVID-19 Outbreak. So if you would please, Torun, you may start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isman, for those warm welcoming words. Thank you, Professor Darajat, and many thanks to Universitas Terbuka for the invitation to participate in this knowledge sharing forum. Together with these two esteemed colleagues, Professor Tian and Dr. Suma Alhaji Ali. Universitas Terbuka is one of ICD's long-standing members and a true pioneer in quality distance and online education. Through many years, you have consistently worked on improving your university student services and quality assurance systems, and also undertaken ICD's quality review services in multiple rounds. You have truly earned your position as a key actor and a front runner of quality distance education in your region, and also set an inspiring example for educational actors globally in our field. So good morning, also afternoon, evening to all participants. I am greeting you from Oslo, early morning here in Norway. And as the Secretary General of ICDE, I will give you some insights from our global community on today's topic, quality student services during COVID-19 outbreak. So I will share my presentation. And I will start with a brief introduction to ICDE. We are the oldest leading global membership association in the field of distance flexible online learning. Founded in Canada back in 1938 as the International Council for Correspondence Education. We're an NGO, not for profit, and we are hosted and partly funded by the Norwegian Ministry of Education and Research. And we've been so since 1988. And this is why the Secretariat of ICDE is based in Norway. And we have been in a consultative partnership with UNESCO since the 1960s. Our goal all along the way has been to support and facilitate inclusive and accessible education through various technologies and learning methodologies. So it started with correspondence letters and developed with various forms of distance learning modalities through broadcasting media, distribution of learning content in the format of video cassettes and CDs, and with the era of internet, more and more online learning provisions. The purpose is to facilitate access to education through flexible learning paths, supported by technologies appropriate for the learners and their contexts. Our global outreach can be found on the map. We have more than 330 members and partners in over 70 countries in all world regions. And together, these members are impacting over 15 million students across all continents. We work with our members and partners, which are mainly higher education institutions, individuals, so those would be expert faculty members, but also student members, and associations, both regional and global. And with the help and together with these members and partners, we are able to work on the different levels, from the policy level with UNESCO and other intergovernmental organizations, with educational leaders, rectors, presidents, and expert committees in our membership, and on the knowledge and good practice field with our individual members. So over to today's topic on student services during COVID-19. A point of departure for my outlook is this article published in the Asian Journal of Distance Education. It derives from a unique research project led by Professor Aras Bozkurt from the Department of Distance Education at Anadolu University in Turkey, also one of ICD's long-standing institutional members. And a long list of researchers, many of them affiliated with ICDE, contributed to this study that was undertaken right after the pandemic hit during the first half of 2020. The article includes country cases from 31 countries in various regions of the world, with a representation of 62.7% of the whole world population. And a synthesis of this research suggests that the current practices can be defined as emergency remote education. And the article clarifies how these differ from planned practices, such as distance education. So emergency remote education is defined as follows in the article. The remarkable difference between emergency remote education and distance education is that the latter is an option, while the former is an obligation. Such an understanding is crucial because misconceptions in definitions would lead us to misconceptions in practice. Furthermore, the article describes distance education as a planned activity and a pedagogical concept. Emergency remote education, on the other hand, is about surviving in a time of crisis with the resources that are available. The research also points out how already existing inequalities were exacerbated during the pandemic, and that these need unique and targeted measures when addressed. So how were the students affected? Well, in spite of various support mechanisms, the study found that parents were overburdened with educational supportive roles, and that all parties suffered from trauma, psychological pressure, and anxiety. Immediately after the pandemic forced closure of schools and university campuses, strategies and guidelines for educators were provided by intergovernmental organizations and global actors such as UNESCO, Commonwealth of Learning, the World Bank, and also many NGOs like ICDE and regional and national associations in the distance education field contributed with sharing of knowledge, best practices, and resources. Also, many for-profit companies made their services temporarily available for free, and technology platforms gave free upgrades to licensed freemium versions. Social media communities played an important role, especially for teachers and leaders, for sharing of best practices, tips and tricks, and the use of proper technologies to support remote learning. Webinars, workshops, and a variety of virtual conferences and events, all trying to identify good practices to secure that learning never stops, as UNESCO named their campaign and initiative, the UNESCO Global Education Coalition, involving multiple educational stakeholders, including the private sector. ICD joined the coalition in June last year and contributed with a special resource page, icde.org/corona, as well as a series of open webinars, which drew a lot of interest way outside of our existing membership. So what about the learner's needs? And here I have inserted a photo of one of the great pioneers of distance education who recently passed away only a couple of months ago. This is Professor Börje Holmberg from Sweden, past ICD president and one of the most respected researchers in the field of distance education. Holmberg was particularly known for his theory of personal communication between teachers and learners in distance education. And a central component of his theory was, in fact, empathy. He believed that by fostering empathy between the learner and the tutor through appropriate interactions, the learners would be motivated and encouraged to engage in their studies and also master self-determined learning. This was long before COVID, but it resonates well with what these recent studies say about the learner's needs. Because while tips, guidelines, and webinars may be useful for teachers and educational leaders, learners who find themselves isolated, first of all, need to feel and experience that they're not alone, and that there are ways that they can be supported by teachers and their peer learners. They need an empathic approach where their individual needs are the point of departure. This should take into account not only the learner's physical learning space, but also the political and socioeconomic context in which they are. From the article, it's expressed that research has shown that emotions play a major role in the online learning experience itself, and not only during the transition to online learning. And that the online learning context is robust enough to allow for caring relations to emerge at an even deeper level than that experienced in face-to-face context. So as a result, the article shows that several researchers have been investigating design elements and pedagogical practices that can enhance the emotional sensitivity and support the development of caring relations in online learning in K-12 and higher education contexts. So proposed measures as a part of the pedagogy of care, which is described in this article, is openness in education, inclusiveness, equal access to education. So that's a silver lining from the COVID-19, is the accentuated awareness of the significant impact that OER and open education practices can play. And note that this should not be confused with temporarily available free resources. OER are openly licensed resources that can be legally shared, reused, translated, and remixed. Alternative assessments and evaluation methods are also important. Reasonable adjustments, such as reduced curriculum, going from grades to pass-fail options, or even moving from more summative to formative assessment. Other proposed measures are surveillance of ethics and data privacy. For example, all these temporarily free services requires many digital footprints. And what happens later when they become paid for services? We have had experiences with the hacking of personal data, Zoom bombers, several challenges. Other measures that the article talks about are political ones, addressing the digital divide. The statistics of the distribution of access to internet is very uneven from region to region. Many suffer from high data and bandwidth costs, especially in many developing countries. And on top of this, unequal distribution of access to hardware or devices, power supply, and software. Gender issues is also a major concern. Women and girls have suffered the most when it comes to education during the crisis, as they are often undertaking caring and supportive domestic roles in their homes, and also have been suffered from more home-based violence as families have been confined and unemployment rates has increased. What did the students say? So, there have been protests against low quality online lectures and universities' failure to deliver hybrid learning, as here from Edinburgh. There have been protests against in-person examination while classes were held virtually, like here from Lahore in Pakistan, but also students' voices advocating for online studying opportunities written by one of ICD students member here from Uganda. In this American study from Inside Higher Education, which raised the questions, are students satisfied? The results show that students as a group are deeply ambivalent about their college experience during the pandemic. To the question, what aspects of campus life do you as a student miss the most? The top 3 selected were 1, friends and social life, 2, in-person lectures, and 3, participating in clubs, organizations. So it's interesting to note that 2 out of these 3 aspects are social and not academic factors. So who are the experts on quality student services? Well, of course, ICDE's members. We have more than 190 institutional members, as well as over 100 faculty, individual members, and student members, all experts seeking to develop quality distance and online learning provisions and contributing to increased access to education and lifelong learning opportunities for all. Through expert committees, networks, and projects consisting of members and partners from all world regions, ICDE is able to undertake a leading and coordinating role in the continuous development of quality, open, flexible, and distance learning. So through our associations, members can join forces globally while developing and contextualizing their educational offerings locally. And also our members benefit from a global diversity of perspectives and expertise for the benefit of their own development and learning processes. And one concrete example of this, and I'm sure this is something that my colleague Suma from Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University can explain more in detail, but I wanted to mention this because I find this as such a great example. The new global benchmarking framework that was initiated by ICD member Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University from the United Arab Emirates, represented here by Dr. Suma. A range of ICD members have already joined this open consortium as members, and among them Universitas Terbuka, and the initiative is supported by ICD as an official partner. And the point of departure for this framework is a common understanding and criteria for quality in technology-enhanced higher education and facilitation and sharing of best practices. It's interesting that this framework and dataset has been developed as a collaborative effort among the members of the consortium, and that the assessment methodology is based on self-assessment, transparency, and sharing of data. So the first edition of this benchmarking framework was launched in January 2021, and it consists of 6 dimensions and 39 indicators. And the dimensions are, as you can see on the screen, teaching and learning, learner services, technology environment, outcome and impact on society, diversity and inclusiveness, and organizational aspects. In addition to the highlighted dimension 2 on learner services, student services and support has a core focus in this framework, and the theme encompasses other dimensions as well, with indicators such as learner engagement, pedagogy suitable for various target group needs, feedback mechanisms, assessment strategies, student satisfaction, flexible learning paths, digital literacy support, personal data protection, inclusive admission policies, etc. So our first pilot implementation has now been run by 5 of these members, the first 6 months of 2021, with the participation from Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University, Universitas Terbuka, Asia University, Uninet Uno, and the University of Philippines Open University, all ICD members. And it will be very interesting to see the results from this pilot, which will be presented in various webinars, as well as a special session at the upcoming ICD Virtual Global Conference Week, which takes place in the final week of October this year. And this consortium is open to more members, and on ICDE's website, universities can sign up through an online form to receive more information on how to join. And the link is attached to this presentation. So the conference website is up. This is ICDE Global Conference Week. It's possible to register for interest and receive updates. Registration and submissions will open 25th of June this will be an academic conference with the program virtually populated over a whole week. And this is to adapt better to the various time zones, which obviously is a challenge when doing global virtual events. And it's open to everyone, all interested. So please welcome all of you and check it out. And I will just thank you very much for the attention. Here are the links and references. They are included in the presentation, so don't hesitate to take contact. Follow us on social media, subscribe to our newsletter, and read ICD's Open Scholarly Journal, Open Praxis. Here are the links, and thank you very much. And don't hesitate to take in contact should you be interested in learning more about ICD. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Thoran. Very interesting presentation. An update of what ICDE has been doing and the members of the ICD has been doing about improving the quality services during the COVID-19 outbreak. And yes, what you said in the presentation is that working together, we can go further. I think that is something that we need to keep in mind. So for those that are interested in working together, are interested in open and online flexible learning, then ICDE is the global organization that has all of those and members that are doing very interesting projects in that area. So now, after the presentation from a global perspective from ICDE, now we go to Universitas Terbuka, our second speaker, which is Professor Tian Belawati. So let's get to know Professor Tian Belawati. So Professor Tian Belawati is a lecturer at the Faculty of Education and Teacher Training, Universitas Terbuka, in the field of Open and Distance Learning, or ODL. She was entrusted as the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs from 2001 to 2009. And then she has been appointed as Director of Universitas Terbuka for 2 terms from 2009 and 2013, and then 2013 and 2017. Professor Tian Belawati has written a lot of journals, book chapters, and books in the field of open and distance learning. And she has also been invited as keynote speakers in national and international conferences. And her academic reputation has been recognized through various awards, namely the Meritorious Service Award from the AAOU in 2012, an Individual Promoter Award from the African Council for Distance Education in June of 2014. And she is also previously the president of the AAOU and also former president of the ICDE. So without further ado, please welcome Professor Tian Belawati to present about the quality student services during the COVID-19 outbreak. Please, Professor Tian.
Thank you, Suci. Everyone, Pak Ojat, Thoran, Suma, and everyone who attends this webinar. Good afternoon from Jakarta, or good morning for Thoran. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to join this.
Good afternoon, Professor Tian.
Oh, yes. Pardon me? Is someone responding to my greetings? Okay. Well, good afternoon. Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Thoran for having presented a global overview about the student service support services in the field of open education in the global level, and also from the research that has been conducted in other countries. I think that has laid out a very good framework to our discussion this afternoon. And from that overview of the global level, as Suchi said, I would like to focus my presentation on, in the case of Universitas Terbuka, or the Indonesia Open University. So please let me now share my screen. Is it shown, Suchi, already? Can you see the PowerPoint, Suchi? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as I said earlier, that I would like to focus my presentation on the student services that is provided by Universitas Terbuka during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is a very difficult time for everyone, as well as for our students, I think. But before I go to that, I think I would like to again highlight and emphasize what has been well described by Thoron earlier, that learning support services is at the heart of the ODE or ODL system. Students who come to the open and distance education system, they are expected to study or learn independently, but that doesn't mean that they have to learn or to study alone. The university has the obligation to provide a very high quality support services during their independent study period. And this is also what is believed by us at the Universitas Terbuka, and that is why, as Professor Ojat Darojat earlier mentioned in his remark, that UT has taken this quality assurance as the core of the management of Universitas Terbuka. And let me start by putting the context. Okay, so Universitas Terbuka is an open university which was founded during the era where we did not have internet yet. So the learning system was designed very simple. It started with admission and then course registration, and then students are expected to do independent learning, and then they will be examined at the end of the semester or at the end of the program. And of course, in the past, the registration and the admission is on site, and then the examination is also paper pencil exam on site. But with the development of technology, now students can also register online, and we also provide the opportunity for students to take the exam online. And what we provide for students to do or to pursue their independent learning, we provide them with learning materials, a pre-produced learning material packages that is basically based on printed forms and format, but now has been also digitized. But the design is still very much following the design for printed learning materials. We also provide practical works for students when it applies to certain courses, and the practical works were designed to be conducted face-to-face with some practices using the dry lab, what we call it. And students are also provided with tutorials, and the tutorials started with face-to-face, but with the existence of online tutorials, now the default system is online tutorials and face-to-face for some programs. And another support service, a very comprehensive one that we provide for our students, include all resources, learning resources in-house or from outside the universities in the digital library. We have UTTV, which also provides a lot of enrichment materials, UT radio, and then counseling and advising for students. And this counseling and advising can be done either in person, through social media, and through contact center. And also we provide students with the Microsoft Office 365. This MS Office 365, we provide all students with the official free email account, and free storage in the cloud of Microsoft. And to support students to do that, we also provide students with free internet access through the nationwide Wi-Fi system provided by the national telecom companies. So we have collaboration with that. So in summary, or in the basic level, these are the support systems that have been designed and implemented by Universitas Terbuka to support students' independent learning. So students, even though they could just follow through the yellow spaces without taking advantage of all the support, the side support services, but we are expecting students to really take advantage of all the services provided to them, especially the online one. Now, in terms of tutorial modes, as I mentioned, there is face-to-face and there's also online, but we also have blended tutorials. So if I can just put them in the boxes, the face-to-face tutorials are only provided for the programs under the elementary school teacher training program, and no other study program that has on face-to-face tutorials before the COVID. And then the blended tutorials are provided for the graduate programs where they have to follow or to attend the online tutorials supplemented by 4 times face-to-face meetings. And then the online tutorials since 2014, if I'm not mistaken, has been the default system for online tutorials for all the bachelor programs in our university. And it is also important to note that the online tutorials at the bachelor level is non-compulsory. So students do not have to take advantage of these tutorial services, but if they do, they will have assignments that grades will contribute to their final grades. So the compulsory one is the face-to-face tutorials for the students in the elementary school teacher program, and the face-to-face tutorials and blended tutorials in the graduate programs. Okay, so with that kind of instructional system, UT as of 2020 has 311,000 students and 28,000 students. So, and as you see in the picture, the majority of students, or almost 50% of students, are the students in the Faculty of Education who are practicing school teachers and are taking the bachelor program because it is mandated by the education of law. Our students spread throughout the countries. As you see, these are the map of Indonesia. And of course, the majority are in the populated areas. But we also have some students, over a little bit over 2,000, who are residing in different countries outside Indonesia. So with this kind of spread of students, UT has always been trying to find a variety of learning services or student services using various media that are accessible to different types or groups of students. Because we have students who are in the privileged group who have no problem in accessing internet and using internet. But we also have students who are having less access to the internet. And those are mostly teachers who are teaching in rural areas, such as those in the elementary school teacher program. So if I also can present to you in summary, as simple as I can, the UT's program types can be divided into degree and non-degree program. And for the degree program, we are offering different schemes. So the first scheme is the package program. The first one is regular program and then fully online. What I mean by regular is the conventional distance education program, which basically depends on or relying on the printed materials and some tutorials, which is not compulsory, and then take the exam. But students now are also, for certain study programs, have the opportunity to take it full online programs. And in the regular programs, We are offering the programs either package, which means students have to take like a package of courses from one semester to another. We also have offered in the non-package programs, which students can take or register for any courses they want without any sequence, very loose. And the third one is loose courses. But what I mean by loose courses is the students can register to just one courses without registering to any study program. And then the non-degree programs, of course, it can be in formats of loose courses. So anybody can just register to any course that is offered by our university, but they can also register to a certain package certificate programs. And in the fully online, as you notice from the picture, all are packaged, and also in the non-degree programs only for the certificate programs. So these are like the simplest picture of the whole schemes and types and modes of operation of UT instructional services. And for the degree program, this is very important to describe. For the package regular program, that is mostly for our bachelor program in the bachelor level, I mean, the tutorial only online tutorial is the default system, yeah. And then except for bachelor in the elementary teacher program and all master and doctoral program, blended mode, which is blended mode tutorial, these are compulsory. So for the other bachelor programs is not compulsory. And for the non-package and loose program, tutorial is not compulsory, but highly encouraged. And it contributes 40% to the final course grade. So what is happening when we have the outbreak of COVID? Because as you can see, even before the COVID, face-to-face meeting in UT is very limited. It's only limited to face-to-face tutorials for the elementary school teacher program, and also the face-to-face meetings in the blended tutorial of the graduate programs. So what we did when we have to do the physical distancing, we convert the face-to-face tutorial into web conferencing called TuWeb or tutorials on the web. And then as far as for examination, before the COVID, the default system for examination is the pencil and paper examination in exam locations. But we also provide, of course, alternative way of online exam with extra payment. But with the COVID, we eliminate the pencil and paper final exam and replace it with when the first COVID outbreak with multiple home assignments, but now in 2020 with take-home examination. So we eliminated completely the face-to-face meetings, both for tutorials as well as for examination. The rest of the support services is remain the same. However, it is interesting to note though that somehow the euphoria of online learning or online access to educational resources that has been happening during the COVID pandemic in Indonesia and maybe throughout the world has somehow motivated people to go online. And this positive energy of online learning has effect to students who initially did not take advantage of the online support services provided by our university to then start to take advantage of it. So if we look at the data before the COVID, we had in 2019, we had about 310,000 students. And among those 310,000 students, only 83,000 students take the online mode or take advantage of the online services, including the online tutorials that we provided. And these 83,000 students who participated in our online tutorials translated into 482,000 student online courses participated in about 10,051 virtual classes. And this is, it looks huge, but it is only actually 30% of our students. So up to 2019, after 35 years of doing distance education, only 30% of our students are taking online learning in our university. The rest are doing distance learning conventionally. So after COVID, if we take a look at the same data, for example, in the online tutorials participation on the left-hand side graphic, in 2019, it's only number of students, it's only 83,000 students. But in 2021, it has increased to 145, almost 146,000 students. So there is an increase of 75% in terms of participation in online tutorials, or in terms of taking advantage of the online tutorials that had been provided to them even before the COVID. But somehow the COVID has invited their interest to join and take advantage of the online services. And the student course has also increased by 60%. And when we see at the virtual class, the increase is 61% because we have more students now in one class than before. So I see this as the blessing in disguise of the pandemic for our services or for our students, because for a long time we have tried to encourage students to take advantage of our online services, including online tutorials, because that would help them success. But somehow not too many students, and only 30% of students did take advantage of our online services. But that changed after the pandemic, and not because we just offer the services, but because of the vibe of online environment, I think, that has suddenly become so familiar to everybody. And also, I think because of the pandemic, the internet cost to access the higher education institution has gone down significantly. The Ministry of Education has provided with grants to students to access internet with freely and also with a very low price. And also the internet service provider has used their social responsibility, CSR, social what is CSR, social responsibility fund, to be used to give free access for them to access the educational institutions through the internet. So I think that has also probably affected our students who before could not use the free Wi-Fi provided by the university and now use the one provided by the government centrally. And another thing that is worth to mention is that Universitas Terbuka has developed a contact center system for students to communicate with us, either for their problems or for questions, for anything. And this has been launched back in 2014. And we can also see the reduced help seek by students through in person by looking at the number of the use of contact center. Before the COVID, we see on average, in 2009, in total, in 2019, only about 45,516 students did take advantage of contact center to communicate their problems, their question, whatever. But the statistic in 2020 increased 800 and 48%. So this, I think, indicates that because of the physical distancing and the limit their movement to go and visit our regional offices or the head office, they now turn into our contact center. So this also, to me or to us, is a blessing, because this will definitely increase the efficiency of student service center services that we provide to our students. And I think this latest survey that I did about like 2 months ago, I wanted to know I did a survey to the teachers who used to attend the face-to-face tutorials because it was obligatory for them and has experienced the tutorials on the web or to web, and to see their preference for the tutorials mode beyond the COVID-19. So we asked, what is your preferred mode of tutorial after COVID-19 is over? And within like 2 weeks, I managed to gather data from over 4,400 students. And the result says that 55% of the teachers said they would prefer the web conference tutorial, which is to web. But 45% still prefer the face-to-face. This is, even though it's not 100%, but for UT, this is a huge leap, because these are the group of students in UT student body that is the least group that take advantage of our online services. And if we look at the reasons why they still prefer face-to-face tutorials, because they said the web tutorials only emphasize assignments. So this is a homework for us, I guess, to evaluate the design of our web tutorials. And then they said that tutors' IT capability is slow. This is also a good feedback for us. And web tutorials often lack of real teaching. What they mean is there is no lecturing in the web tutorials, or maybe very limited lecturing. And then they said mostly 60% of them said web tutorial often disturbed by bad and unstable internet connection. So that is the biggest technical obstacle for them to prefer web tutorials. But for those who prefer web tutorials, they said that web tutorial is time flexible, is suitable for the digital era, and is cost efficient, because they don't have to have transportation costs, they don't have to go to the tutorial places, and it is offers the opportunity for more learning to recorded session, because the web tutorials are recorded and students can go to the recorded sessions afterwards. So I think even though we have some feedback for us to follow up about this web tutorial, then we see the silver lining of this in the future, and perhaps we can better serve them in the future through these web tutorials, which will be more cost effective from our side, the institution, and also from the student side. So I would like to stop here, Suci, and probably if there is question later. So thank you very much for listening, and good afternoon to all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Oh, I forgot to read this, but there, you say, you have it. Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I think everybody can see. I guess I just want to highlight that Prof. Ojat now is developing UT digital learning environment also as a follow-up to what is happening during the COVID. And because we have learned that, COVID-19 pandemic has significantly increased the use of online student services by students. So we need to make it more robust and also comprehensive to UT digital learning environment. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibu Tian, for the very interesting insight about how student services have been impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak, and sharing your research and your data about that. So
I stop sharing?
Yes,
right? Okay.
Okay. So in terms of Universitas Terbuka, it seems that it's quite a blessing in disguise for both the students and our university, because then we learned a lot, and online learning, it has been more mainstream now. When we talk about online learning, people are now more aware, not just Universitas Terbuka. And this is a learning phase, during the pandemic. And I'm sure that we will learn more, and then we will figure out how to better provide services to our students. So thank you. Now, we come to our third presenter. But before that, for those participants who have questions, please, you can write it in the chat box there, and we will then read your questions. Please note your name and to whom the question is addressed. Now, let's get to know more about Dr. Suma. Okay. Dr. Suma Alhaji Ali is an associate professor in industrial engineering, artificial neural network, and robotics. Wow. She is currently the director for excellence and governance at Hamdan bin Muhammad Smart University. She has a strong record of achievement, combining skills in diverse areas of industrial engineering, artificial intelligence, and quality and excellence. She held many positions in the public and private sectors, including the Assistant Dean of Engineering for Industry Relations and ABET, the Director of the Center of Academic Quality Assurance at Hashemiti University, and the Executive Director for the United Industrial Group Corporation. She is a lead assessor for the European Foundation for Quality Management, model, and a lead auditor for the Middle East e-learning quality framework, with more than 15 years of experience in building and operating quality management systems and designing automated systems and solutions in both private and governmental sectors. Dr. Suma was the ICDE focal point on quality in the Arab region during 2017 till 2020. So, Dr. Suma, please welcome your presentation.
Thank you. So let me share my screen. So I guess you guys can see my screen now. I noticed that my colleagues, one focused on the international practices, another one focused on the practices in University of Terbuka. I wanted to be more theoretical, so I will cover the quality indicators and the quality criteria for student services in online, smart and technology enhanced higher education.
Okay, Dr. Suma, can you please, your voice, make it more louder?
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Excellent. So I believe all of us has learned many things during this pandemic, and one of them that online learning works. It is efficient, it is effective. And most probably, most of us will not go back to the conventional way of doing things after this pandemic. I expect that online learning is here to stay. So maybe not on a full scale, but at least partially. Many universities may start adopting the blended mode where they will have some courses or part of courses delivered online. In order to be able to ensure the quality of online learning, there are many aspects that we need to pay attention to and ensure that they are designed, developed, implemented well, and as well as continuously improved. I can summarize like 9 dimensions that each universities who would like to adopt online to take care of, like organizational aspects, curriculum and course design, course delivery, teaching and learning material, OER, assessment, technology infrastructure and the platforms, faculty and professional staff development, and definitely student services. As per the request, I will focus today only on student services. As Toran indicated, at HBMSU, we developed the benchmarking framework among an international consortium of many members, and also we have those 6 dimensions where learner services is one and many important of them. And the indicators that we all also agreed to be there are the range of support services available, the availability of virtual complementary services, the innovativeness and contextualization in the services, the quality of academic and career advising, availability of services standards and guarantees, and I will come back to that, as well as the availability for multiple platforms for multi-purpose communication, and also to ensure learners' engagement and try to avoid learner isolation, which is one common challenge or a problem in online learning. If we want to really talk about the quality of service in online learning, we need to make sure that we need to all to realize that the student support services are essential component of online provision to ensure student retention, success, and satisfaction. We all know that student attrition is higher in online learning, and support services is one aspect that, if done well, can increase student retention. Support services for e-learning students should be designed to cover the pedagogic, technical, as well as administrative aspects. So we should try to think about learner's experience throughout all his journey across the university, starting from induction, maybe the need for development of generic skills, e-learning skills, career advising, even to services that should be provided to alumni. Students should be provided with access to human support, not only, as also Prof. Tian has highlighted, not only systems, and the support may be course specific, maybe general specific. The roles may include tutors, mentors, counselors, librarian, definitely technical staff, advisors, and so. What is very important to ensure the delivery of quality services is to manage the student expectations. And because it is very important for students to understand exactly what we are offering, the frequency of the offer, how many staff members are there to help them, and so on, so that they will be later on satisfied on the level of the service, the promptness of that service, and so on. If we want to talk about quality of any service, we have to talk about SEPQual developed by Prof. Barcelona. And as also Turan mentioned, responsiveness and empathy is a very important factor. So in delivering any service, we need to make sure that there are some tangible aspects like the technology infrastructure here and so on, but also the reliability, the assurance, the empathy, and the responsiveness are very, very important. Before talking about what are the quality indicators for services, let's agree about what are the services that are expected for any online university. So any online university, we will expect services even before you start your study, the pre-enrollment advising, maybe something like a recognition of a prior learning, admission, registration, scholarships, and financial aid advising. Definitely, orientation is a must here. Academic advising, academic support services, the technical support, library, e-libraries, definitely, because all the teaching and learning material have to be available online. Internship, clinical placement services, according to the type of the programs offered by the university. Career advising, definitely, and sometimes personal support, especially during COVID-19. Many university administrators noticed that the request for services become usual. Maybe we need also to provide some services for students with disabilities, for student organizations like student council, student club, and all these extracurricular activities that can really.
We lost your voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
We lost your voice.
Can you up your volume again?
Uh, okay. So also the alumni services, because it is very important for the student to continue his active relationship with the university and with the other students. The services have been provided so far using synchronous as well as asynchronous tools. For the synchronous tools, there was variable tools like virtual meetings, instant messaging, web conferencing. Even some universities use phones, so toll-free numbers and online chatting. And some universities like HBMC use the chatbots as well to cover all the frequent questions, which provide also an instantaneous service to the students. The passive ones, the most common ones are the emails, the online forms, discussion boards, and as well as social media, which can really be utilized very well in that aspect. With regard to the online, student support services, for anything to be done well, you have to plan for it well. So planning for student services is very important. So the university should adopt a holistic and proactive approach. And this approach, when any university needs to plan the student services, they have to analyze the student needs and take into account the different student groups that are enrolled in the university and their needs, because the needs for the online students may be a little bit different than the needs for the conventional students or the students coming to traditional universities. Those usually are, even their age is different, they are more busy and usually they are on the job. Support services should encompass all aspects of the university, so it is much more than the ones that usually delivered by conventional universities. Definitely, adequately qualified support staff is needed there, because they are the ones that we will rely upon them. There should be policies, strategies, guidelines, procedures. There should be also regular monitoring for the use of student services, because we could do any type of analysis you want, and then some service can be very favorable for students, others are not. So we need to analyze what services are really in use for students, what are the aspects of those services that are good or bad, and so on, and enhance them continuously based on the feedback provided from students. Also, when planning, we need to make sure that staff providing student services have a clear job descriptions, have access to the necessary information to answer the students very quickly. They need to access to the student information systems and so on. They know about the offerings, about the softwares used in different classes, platforms used in the university, and so on. There definitely should be mechanisms for training and development, because those things are very dynamic and new things are coming all the time and they need to know more. Institutional policies also should define the service standard. And this is very important because we don't want students to expect that if I send an email at 12 p.m. Or at 12 a.m., I will receive an answer at 12:01. And sometimes they expect. So we need to make sure that this is all, there is sufficient information provided to students so they know exactly the expected level and the frequency of the intervention. Proactive technological tools, and when I say proactive, I mean like something that will send reminders, send alarms, something like this is really very beneficial as well, because usually you are talking about a huge number of students and technology can help in that regard. And we need to make sure as administrators that we manage staff workload very well, because sometimes staff can be overwhelmed with the quantity of communications and interventions needed. So we should make sure that they are really compensated sufficiently. The first and most important thing is to know your targeted audience. So you need to define the characteristics of the targeted population of the students. You need to, in order to make sure that whatever arrangement for online learning is suitable for the students, and the support services as well is suitable, appropriate as well. Because as you know, different target groups have different preferences, different characteristics. So before designing those services, we need to know well who are going to use those services. Relevant characteristics include, for example, how ready learners for online learning, their access, their familiarity to the technology, proficiency in the language for instructions. For example, in the Arab world, we speak Arabic, or the systems are in English, so sometimes we will need some to enhance their proficiency in the English language, something like this. So we need to make sure that we understand the socio-demographic and the professional characteristics, the previous education, that required skills, and accordingly we close the gaps. So if there are any gaps in the language, in the readiness to use those systems and the platforms, we need to make sure that we provide the sufficient training and orientation to cover that. We expect that the process to establish quality support services to start with identifying the target population, and then to identify their needs and expectations, to make sure that all those needs and expectations are incorporated into the services, design and develop the support services, and most importantly, design and develop guidelines, because those students, you cannot see them, you cannot describe things to them, so you need to make sure that you have user-friendly, clear guidelines for them, so that they will be able to know about the service, access the service, and use it. And those guidelines are equally important for students as well as for staff who will be involved in delivering those services. Definitely, after you deliver the support services, we would recommend to evaluate them continuously, enhance them as per the feedback provided from students and staff. And doing all of that, you need to align your institutional goals with the services. Like if you care about entrepreneurship, innovation, you will provide related services. If you care about employability, you will pay extra attention to career advising and so on. So there is it is not like one size fits all. So there is a link between the student needs, the institutional mission and goals. Definitely, you have to provide sufficient resources, because nothing happen by itself. We need staff, we need technological platforms, we need staff sometimes available 24/7 and so on. Communication is vital, because you need the students to understand those services, you need the staff to understand, you need to have a common language, a common message among all your staff who participate in delivering, designing, or even administering those services. Some of the best practices here are just in time, that to provide prompt services whenever they are requested at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., whatever it is. There is also just in case, which means that to provide a very individualized, contextualized service for a certain student based on his specific need, to have a clear, comprehensive, and user-friendly information. As I said, it is very important to provide sufficient guidance. The availability of the services through a range of channels, because not everyone like mobile, not everyone use desktop and so on, so you need different channels. The same service can be provided in several channels like online, synchronous, asynchronous, and so on. We will talk about face-to-face, as also Tian alluded to, because sometimes also some of the students still prefer face-to-face, so we will talk about a solution to that. Support for students with low GPA, or for those who have some skills lacking, maybe it is needed as well. There are a lot of OER that can be used, so it is not all, you do not have to build everything from scratch. Learning analytics is amazing. It can allow you to understand the student needs, study their use pattern, Also, it can allow you to predict what the students may want and to be able to offer individualized and personalized service for them. Any student will expect that all of your administrative systems, or at least the majority of them, available online. So he will not expect that he will need to come to the university or to campus to pay or to register or to check on anything. So you will need to make sure that all of those can be done online as well. Very important, the integrity and confidentiality of information of learners' records. There are many laws and regulations in Europe, in many countries, and in some countries they are criminal laws as well for information security breaches. So you need to make sure that you have effective security controls in place, and your staff are aware of that as well. You cannot share the student information with his parents, with his spouse, and with his friend, with his work, unless you have a previous consent from him to be able to share that data. Courses, this is overall. If we go specific to the courses that can be applied, that can be provided, and what exactly to watch for. For example, for the course choice, it is very important to provide some curriculum guidelines, provide very updated information like the full description of the study program, variety of the learning methods, the assessment methods as well, the expected role of the learner, how many hours he is expected to allocate for each course. And this is very important because also we want our learners to stay. We want them to be successful. We want to make sure that even they did the right choice in selecting the university as well as the program. Advising and counseling over choice of courses and progression, then how to navigate through the courses, if there are some combinations that the learner can choose, very important, so that to try to give them some individualized learning experience and to build on their knowledge, because some students, for example, are competent on this area, so maybe they don't have to repeat that course and so on. So all of this is better to be provided to students before they start their journey with the university. Technical support, as you know, all your information technology platforms have to be available 24/7 because you never know when learners are going to use them. The same, they will expect that the IT support to be available 24/7. When we talk about IT support, they will not. It is preferable that the IT support staff will be able to solve the questions related to the platform, the general platforms, as well as related to some of the software used in some courses, because like SPSS or AutoCAD or whatever courses using some software, sometimes the students will call to ask about that, not only the general question. Definitely, it is very important that the staff will be able to use the remote access to diagnose problems, to solve IT issues. Also, all the service to be available on mobile, small screen, because sometimes students are on the run, they are using mobiles to access their lectures. There should be some kind of a strategy recommended to deal with the learners who have some technological barriers, like maybe some of the learners who may be disadvantaged, or some of them in rural areas, or like how they can also still benefit from the services provided by the university. On-demand and individualized training is really very recommended if possible, like if we can also provide a training to fit the specific needs for specific students in specific courses. This will be also appreciated a lot by learners. If we talk about also, there are pedagogical support, which is also very important. The university, in order to be able to provide the correct pedagogical support, we expect that the university to analyze the specific requirements for each course and common prior experience for the student population, so that they will design the effective pedagogical support services. Sometimes students will need the services on how to approach online learning. What is their role? How many hours expected for them, and so on. And if your students are very young, they will know better than you. If they are adults or if they are on the job, then you need to make sure that you provide digital and information literacy services. You enhance their skills for online collaboration, for development of self-regulations, and also very important aspects, intellectual property and copyright. Because many students did not know about that. They think they can copy from any resource. So it is very important to help students to understand issues surrounding plagiarism, develop good academic practice in quoting, referencing others, and so on, so that we don't want them to get in a trouble. Also, it is very important that support to be offered through a variety of means. We are talking about OERs, can be used more, some synchronous, asynchronous, online guidelines, videos, webinars, as what we have now. So many tools can be used. Individualized feedback and the prompt responses to learners is very important because they can get lost and they need our support all the time. The advice, guidance, and the tutoring, as I mentioned, should be provided synchronous as well as asynchronous. If it is provided synchronous, a recording like what we have here in the webinar, so students can go back and watch the session if they did not get all the information from the original one. Also, the opportunities could be available for students to self-test their competences. So they can self-test their knowledge about a certain subject, and maybe they will discover that no, there is a prerequisite that they should take, so they can review the OER for that prerequisite, or maybe they will discover that they are very good in that topic, they can go to an advanced topic or something like this. So this is really good, and it will enable us to individualize the student experience. Online library is very important. You know, those very big buildings that usual universities have. Now you will need to provide similar experience, but all should need to be online and soft copies, and those should be accessible to learners 24/7 as well. And in designing those online library resources, the staff of the library need to coordinate with the academicians, because they will know the requirements of each course and they will make sure to provide it to learners. Something really interesting is the online learning communities, which we can also provide to students. And in order to do that, also academicians here can work and identify what the specific competences or areas that can be enriched using online learning communities. Online learning communities are very important because they reduce the isolation that often associated with online learning. They can stimulate the creation of sense of community among the students, and also they can not only fulfill academic goals, they can also fulfill some social functions so that learners can know each other, network with each other, and so on. So it is really very interesting for learners. It is also very important sometimes to achieve the educational goals or the learning outcomes of a certain courses. Again, online learning communities can be provided on asynchronous or asynchronous basis, and a mix is also very interesting and usually recommended. Social media can be used so that to offer dynamic interactions and to use social media for useful purposes, definitely. When developing online learning communities, we need to make sure that we have formal or informal online monitoring, sometimes from peers, sometimes from students themselves, because we need to make sure that the information provided is correct and useful. It's very important also to watch the code of conduct in the online learning communities, so to make sure that we have a clear statement about the code of conduct and what also applies to students in social media related to the university. Sometimes we can allow students to manage or to lead online learning communities. This is very, very interesting. However, it comes with its risks, so it needs to be managed properly. We need to pay to make sure that considerations are given to handling any problems that may arise. Sometimes collision, disagreement between students, disagreements between students and faculty members or experts in the online community, the boundaries, the blurring of boundaries between social and academic life, because yes, we would like to encourage networking and social interactivity, but we still need to focus on the academic aspects, which are usually the goal for the online learning community. A study center, we suggest this because, as Prof. Tian also alluded to, some of the students still prefer face-to-face. So what universities can do, they can operate a network of study centers, which they can regard and outputs for everything they need for multiple purposes, like regional recruitment, administration center, local library, teaching center, assessment center. So many things can be used because, as I said, still it is in the beginning for some students, and some students still would like to have some face-to-face interactions with faculty or with staff. When designing the study centers, we need to pay extra attention to the staff handling study centers, because they are the public face of the university. So it is very important for them to know how to deal with the students, not only how to do their original job, but also how to provide good, friendly, how to cooperate well with the students, because the students may not see anyone in the university except for those staff. The operating hours need also to suit the students and need to usually to be long operating hours, guys. Before finishing, I need to make sure to talk about suggestions and complaints, because it is very essential to listen to learners. It is very essential to hear them out. It is also very important that students feel encouraged to communicate their needs, their ideas, suggestions, complaints, and overall institutions managements who are open to criticism and to suggestion and to show learners that they are responsive to those, raises learners' tolerance to technical insufficiencies that may arise. So it is very important to listen to learners. It is very important to be responsive to student feedback, and for students also to see that we actually acted upon their recommendations, their suggestions. If they have some form of challenge or a problem, that we have fixed it on the spot, if possible, or at least fix it in a sense. If we talk about equality, we have to talk about continuous improvement and the BDCI cycle. So we have to make sure that the university institute a quality culture and effective process for continuous equality evaluations and improvement. That the university, the faculty, the support staff all have a real commitment to quality improvements, and that they have a continuous evaluation, like you need to evaluate the appropriateness of the learning arrangement, the quality of teaching and learning material, definitely the quality of support services, the learner success, and so on. Because sometimes you teach, you evaluate leading factors or lagging factors in order to know how effective those services and how effective those arrangements are. And definitely we have to evaluate students' satisfaction, faculty satisfaction, even staff satisfaction, because a happy staff and a happy faculty member is a prerequisite to a happy student. And some of the ideas, you can create one-stop portal for all services, because students do not like to go to many places to figure out what to do. You can offer online specific orientation if possible. You can ask students to support. Some of them would like to support, and some of them are even better than professional staff for support or to provide virtual peer mentorship. And also, if it is very difficult to provide a 24/7 service, you can partner up with another university, with another teaching and learning provider to provide after ourselves. So these are some within the time allocated to me. Those are some of the indicators that will, inshallah, lead to a quality student service for online learning. Thank you very much. So let me stop sharing to go back to you guys.
Thank you. Inshallah. Okay, so that was the last presentation, by Dr. Suma Alhaji Ali. Thank you for the very comprehensive presentation. And it seems that we already have people addressing some questions. We will read 6 out of the one that has been in our chat box. So this is the first question addressed to Ms. Torin. It's from Amalia, Universitas Terbuka. How, Torin, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. How do you foster inclusive education through distance learning, especially for those living in the remote areas with limited access to the internet?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I think that has been also exemplified by the presentation from Tian from Universitas Terbuka. You really have the experience in Indonesia. Because not everyone has access to internet, and there are ways to offer distance education through various technologies. Correspondence letters were also a technology. Regional study centers is also a technology or a part of a support system providing distance learning. But of course, access to internet, the COVID-19 crisis has shown that access to internet is really core. And now UNESCO has included access to internet into the right to education. So it's a very important point, of course. And governments and private actors need to collaborate to invest in the infrastructure so that more learners can get access to internet. But for those who don't have, there are different ways of providing distance education through more hybrid concepts, such as postal sendings with materials or broadcasting television, radio. Communication between learners and tutors and learners can take place via mobile phones if learners and teachers have mobile phones and not access to internet. So there are different waves, and you have to kind of look at the situation the learners are in, the access to the available technology that there is, and design a concept based on the components that are available that would suit the learners the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that answers the questions, Amalia. Now, this is towards Professor Tian from Romanian ZA. She's from EINSAG. Now, online learning is good news, but at its initial stage, it poses certain threats to students. At least there are 3 problems faced by students. 1, traditional mindset of learning. Second, they fail to catch up their virtual classmates. And third, the issue about internet coverages. How do we overcome them? Ibu Tian.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. I think the traditional mindset of learning, that is, I think, the fundamental obstacle for us to take advantage of this digital learning environment that has been laid out by the global environment. And for that, only time, I think, can heal us to really take everybody to be in the mindset of online learning. However, as I mentioned in my presentation, that I believe, as the person who has been in this field for more than 35 years, In terms of online learning and the stage of online learning in Indonesia before COVID is, I think we were like 15 years behind the other countries, especially those in the developed world. However, with the outbreak of the COVID-19, I think we had done a frog leap, a very huge frog leap that has making us catching up, with our counterparts in other countries. And because of the situation, people are forced to be on board and to jump into the wagon and be part of the environment of online learning. So in a way, as the silver lining of what has been happening, I think that the mindset will also change in time. Of course, mindset cannot change overnight, but with the familiarity, with the enjoyment in the beauty of online learning, I think eventually this traditional mindset of learning will change. And this has been proven by what has been happening during the COVID. In another survey that I did, for example, when I did the first survey when the COVID was just coming to Indonesia in April 2020, like 80% of even not the students, I'm talking about the professors now, the lecturers, 80% of the lecturers said they didn't want to do online learning because they did not believe in the effectiveness of online learning. But the latest surveys that we did again, the Director General of Higher Education, we did another survey this April 2021. That percentage of professors who claim that has declined to like less than 30%. So that is what I call a change in the mindset. So I believe, with this COVID, I think it proves to us that everybody can change, including the most stubborn professors in universities that we know, most professors are so stubborn. Even that can change. I mean, much more the students who are now, they are mostly Generation Z, I think, right? Now the students. And they're naturally digital native, maybe will be migration, some of them, but they will learn and catch up and change their mindset, I think, even faster than the professors. So what we have to do is to keep up this hype or this liking of online learning during this pandemic, and keep supporting the environment by, for example, lowering the rate of the internet cost, by increasing the bandwidth of internet access in the rural areas and in the regions. I think that will ease up and will make the experience more pleasant to the students. And for the second question, they fail to catch up their future. I don't quite understand this question, what it means by fail to catch up their future classmates. I mean, perhaps we can ask what he means. Prominenza, I think, is a man. To catch up their virtual classmates. So they want to meet their virtual classmates but cannot meet, or what does it mean? Or he or they not as fast as their other students in their classmates? Maybe that's what they mean. I think it has to do, if it is the later one, I think it has to do with the familiarity with the learning management system that is being used, with the seamless connection of the internet that they experience. I think that has something to do with that. And in terms of internet coverage, I believe, I'm always a hopeful person. I believe that, the COVID-19 has waken up our government, and that, developing infrastructure is not only paving roads, not only making forts, not only making airports, not only making school buildings. Developing infrastructure in the digital era means also developing the internet infrastructure throughout the regions, throughout the country, to make the internet connection distributed more equally with affordable rates of cost. So, and I believe that has become, a wake-up call for the government. And we can see, as you probably also have witnessed, that the internet cost now, especially for students, has decreased significantly with various grants that is offered by the government and the internet service providers. And eventually, I think it will become it will influence the cost structure of internet provider, because the more users, it means the average cost for each user per megabyte will decrease. So as we increase the users, because more people are now so up to the online learning and online using for their daily whatever needs, I think the cost will also get lower. And I hope that it will not have to wait until like the next 20 years. Hopefully that the government of Indonesia will really step up and work with the internet provider to work on the cost structure and maybe provide some subsidy for students and also for professors. So that's what I think to answer to these questions.
Okay, very extensive answer. Thank you, and a very hopeful one. So let's go to the next question. It's from Joko Istianto, Universitas Terbuka. And this is for Dr. Suma. What are the biggest obstacles you face when you are in duty for Middle East distance learning?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very good question.
Yes. Can you read it? Okay. Especially in developing the quality distance learning in the Middle East.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the Middle East, I would not say
voice.
Can you up the volume, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the biggest issue maybe is
no voice.
No voice.
Okay. Probably you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay. So the biggest issue will be to manage students' expectations and to explain the role expected from them. Because the other issue also is with the teachers and faculty members training. Because as maybe some of you know, it is not like only the technological platform. In the Middle East, many, or in the Gulf region also in particular, we have the technological infrastructure, we have the very good internet connection, but the soft issues are the ones that are matters. That first of all, we want the learners to understand the role expected from them, know that it is very serious, that there are a lot of material need to be covered, that they need to be able to manage themselves well. And we also sometimes need to enhance the competency of teachers and faculty members in providing online learning, because it is not like a PowerPoint. That to have a PowerPoint online. No, there are many other things that you need to do to make the experience interesting, engaging, and value adding to So those are some of the challenges we face. Thank you.
Okay. The next question, please, is from Siti Juleha, Universitas Terbuka also. Addressed to Ms. Thorne. What kind of quality learning services that we can provide in terms of the pedagogy of care, since there are different contexts and needs that student faces? Okay.
Thank you. Yes, it's a good question. In the context of the COVID, I think two questions. So what's your home situation for learning? Like, do you have internet access? Do you have broadband, high costs? Do you have power supply? Do you have access to devices? But also, how is your home situation? Do you have a quiet place to study? Can you concentrate? Do you have food? So there's a lot of issues to consider. And then find out, like, how are you? As I mentioned in my presentation, we have seen that many students suffer from mental health issues, anxiety for the situation. They're isolated. So a pedagogy of care would take into account all these factors. So not only the hygiene factors of learning, physical learning space, but also like how do you feel? And in order to support them, the students, there would have to be means of communication. So communication between teachers and students, and also facilitation. Sorry, there's some, yeah, thank you. Facilitation of communication between students. So most important is that it's a prepared system in place with competent staff, with synchronous and asynchronous learning modes, especially the latter, because it's evident that when learners are prevented from access to internet, they had to be supported by other ways. So supporters need, students need to be supported in different ways, depending on the context they're in. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have time for another question? Okay. So the next question is from Tian. Addressed to Professor Tian. What's the future student services based on the experience of during COVID-19? Okay, so probably she's asking, what are UT going to provide in the future for the student services based on our experience during the COVID? Professor Tian, please.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the last slide that I almost forgot to read, I think Universitas Terbuka in the future will take advantage more of artificial intelligence and machine learning to help students or to provide pedagogical student service to the students. We hope that we would be able to track students' learning process, and then we could somehow watch, whether they are at risk at certain point, and then if they are, then we could maybe do some intervention based on automatically or also in-person advising. But I believe that because Indonesia is a very heterogeneous country, and our students are also very heterogeneous with different circumstances that they live in, I think we will remain to have the variety of services. I mean, the variety of modes for services, including the most conventional one. And as also mentioned by Dr. Suma, that it is also still considered very much important, the human touch, right? So, but I think that would be the default. But on top of that, as part of the distance education, the DLE that is going to be developed by UT, I think we would like to capitalize on the advancement of artificial intelligence and machine learning for our student services, especially the services that can be automated, because that would allow us to serve more students in as faster and also most efficiently. I think that would be probably the future within like 5 to 10 years from now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Tian, for that. So we are very hopeful then.
Very hopeful.
Very hopeful.
Always
so,
very hopeful.
The last question for today is from Nurul Hidayat, addressed to Dr. Suma. The weakness in online learning is the lack of maximum student involvement. The student involvement can be seen from the results of students participating in full learning from the beginning of learning to the end of learning. Now, how do we as teachers be able to maintain the quality of the teaching and learning process in the classroom in conditions of online learning as it is today? So, Dr. Suma, your answer, please.
First of all, I totally agree with you.
Yes. Can you have your mic closer to so that we can hear your voice?
Yeah, you can hear me.
Okay, yes.
So I totally agree with you, with your comment. Very good question as well. And yes, student involvement is very, very important. How do we as teachers be able to maintain the quality of teaching and learning process in the classroom? We have to understand, we have to realize as administrators in online universities that in online education, it is not only about teachers. Teachers need to be supported. Teachers need to be supported with a platform that really facilitate the engagement of learners. Teachers need to be supported with OER, with the teaching and very interactive teaching and learning materials. So, and that's what I mentioned before. We need to, the administration of the universities need to understand the role of teachers and not to overwhelm teachers with everything. In order to keep the students engaged, we need to make the learning experience interesting. We need to make it very interesting as watching a YouTube, as watching a movie. It is very difficult for the teacher alone to do that. So we need to support him. And engagement, it is like sometimes you need, there are some practices that could be used, like flipped classrooms, like try to utilize technology, like use the breakout rooms so that learners will work with each other, put opportunities for learners to talk about their experience, try to utilize social media because it is very interesting, so try to utilize it in your lectures as well, incorporate music, incorporate whatever things really relevant and interesting to learners because as I said, they need to have an interesting thing. They will not stay in their chair for 1 hour or 2 hours unless it is interesting. Especially they can go and you cannot watch them. They can turn off the voice and you cannot know that. It is not they are in the lecture. So in that case, you need to make it very, very interesting. And it is not only your job to make your lecture interesting, you will also need the support of your university, of your school management to be able to do that. You need to have a very interactive learning object that you can use and incorporate on your lectures, in your class, and so on. But the more activities you have, the more involvement of the students you have. As I mentioned, you can involve students in the presentation, you can involve students in the assessment, you can put all of these things to make your class interesting. But you are very right, student involvement is very, very important. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Suma. And so with that, and I think we would like, to be with the speakers with more time, to discuss and share. But it is nearing our closing. So let me just share with you some notes that I have taken about what the three speakers have been sharing. And all is very optimistic to me, when I listen to Torren, Professor Tian, and Dr. Suma. We should see the challenges of providing quality student services during the pandemic as an opportunity for all of us, to better educate the community at large about the strength of online learning and the future of online learning, how to integrate it into the learning process, not drop it once the pandemic is over, but see it because there are free resources and there are communities of online learning that can help support the establishment of your online learning. And there are also forums out there, like the ones that ICDE have been mentioning. Torren has been mentioning that it will be available, not just globally, but also regionally. And for those who are interested in how to provide quality services for your online learning, the materials of the speakers have presented are available to be downloaded. And I think there are references also that you can read. And with that, I warmly thank you for all of you, the speakers especially, Ms. Torren Gleshlik, Professor Tian Belawati, Dr. Suma Alhaji Ali, and for those that are still participating in this webinar for a fruitful and very interesting discussion. And for that, that is my final remark. And thank you all for participating. Should we take pictures, photos of the participants? So please, for those that do not have their video open your video. We will take pictures of the participants. Give a big smile. So, first page. Second slide. Third slide. Okay. So that's all. And we hope to see all of you in the next Knowledge Sharing Forum by Universitas Terbuka with a much more interesting theme and topic. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Torren.